She told me her feelings were real, just not the love kind. My calm silence hurt her more than any outburst could. I'm 34, an engineer in a mid-sized city. I'm not flashy, not the life of the party, not the guy people notice first when they walk into a bar. What I've always offered is steadiness. My routine is simple. I run in the mornings, I know my coffee order by heart, I keep my apartment neat. Some might call it boring, but for me it's peace. I met she's 32, 2 years ago through mutual friends at a birthday dinner. She worked in digital marketing, and if I had to describe her in one word, it would be electric. She filled silences before they even existed, made jokes that cut through awkwardness, and knew how to turn a group of acquaintances into a group of conspirators by the end of the night. She was warm, magnetic, a little chaotic, the kind of person who lived in permanent italics. We started dating slowly, almost cautiously. A coffee here, a walk there, a last-minute invite to a concert because I have an extra ticket and you're the only one I know who won't complain about standing for 3 hours. It wasn't cinematic fireworks, more like the steady layering of familiarity. My toothbrush at her place, her Netflix profile on my TV, joint grocery runs that ended with inside jokes about who picked the worst avocados. The early months had a texture I liked, quiet but full. I thought we both wanted the same thing, stability without drama. But then the first red flags started showing up. Not in big, obvious fights. In fact, we rarely fought. They came in the form of tiny remarks that hung in the air longer than they should have. Like the night we were out with her friends, and one of them, a little tipsy, said, "Hey, you basically have a husband without the paperwork." Everyone laughed. She didn't. She just swirled her wine, eyes on the table. Later, when I asked her if she was okay, she shrugged. "You're just safe." "That's good. It's what I need." Safe. I wasn't sure if it was a compliment or a caution sign. There were other small things. She'd sometimes disappear into her phone in the evenings, furiously typing in group chats, then brush it off with just venting with the girls. I never pried. Privacy matters. But when she came back to me afterward, she had a faintly different energy, as if her real emotional processing happened elsewhere, not with me. Another time, after we'd been dating about a year, she made an offhand comment that stuck. "Sometimes I wonder if love is supposed to feel like an adrenaline rush. You know, like a cliff dive." She laughed as soon as she said it, backtracked with, "Don't get me wrong, I like our calm thing." But the words lived in my head longer than they should have. Still, I ignored these flickers. Everyone has their quirks, their doubts. Relationships aren't supposed to be 24/7 declarations of certainty. Around the 2-year mark, we were firmly in the life planning stage. We'd talked about maybe moving in officially, splitting rent, even a vague, in a couple years maybe we could look at buying. Nothing binding, but enough that the idea of future wasn't hypothetical. That's why the conversation felt like an earthquake under a perfectly normal day. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. We'd been at her place, doing nothing remarkable, grocery bags on the counter, some playlist humming in the background, her cat weaving between my ankles. She looked at me and said, with an odd calmness, "I need to tell you something, and I want you to listen all the way through before reacting." I thought maybe it was about her job or some family issue. Instead, she said, "My feelings for you are real, but they're not the love kind. I don't think I've ever been in love with you the way I'm supposed to be. I've tried, because you're amazing and you take care of me, and we fit in so many ways. But I can't keep pretending. What I feel for you is closeness, friendship, respect, just not the thing you probably thought it was." She said it almost gently, as if honesty was a gift she was giving me. I remember the moment in fragments. The hum of the fridge, the half-sliced lemon on the cutting board, the way her hands trembled slightly even as her voice stayed steady. I also remember feeling numb. Not devastation, not anger, just the sudden sharp clarity of a curtain pulled back. Like, oh, so this is what all those little moments meant. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just said, "I appreciate the transparency." And in my head, right there and then, I quietly recategorized her in my life. From partner to friend. From future plans to archived. And with that shift, all the affection, support, and emotional investment I'd been pouring in stopped. She looked startled at my calmness, almost as if she'd expected a scene, some grand display of heartbreak to validate the gravity of her confession. But all I gave her was silence. That silence would end up being louder than anything I could have shouted. When people talk about breakups, they usually focus on the loud parts, the fights, the tears, the slammed doors. What I had instead was silence, a silence I engineered myself. After A's confession, I didn't storm out. I didn't accuse her. I simply told her I appreciated the honesty. Then I stayed long enough to help her put away the groceries, fed her cat one last time, and left. It wasn't performative, it was instinct. On the drive home, I realized something unusual. My chest didn't feel heavy. My hands didn't shake on the steering wheel. Instead, I felt hollow but clear, like I'd been walking around with a puzzle missing pieces, and she had finally admitted she'd never had them in the first place. I didn't text her that night, or the next day, or the day after. Normally, our message history was a stream of "How's your morning? Want me to pick up dinner? Look at this dumb meme." That thread just ended. At work, I kept my head down. A few colleagues noticed I was quieter than usual, but no one pressed. I think they assumed I was just busy. By the end of that first week, I noticed the pattern. She was reaching out. Tentative texts. "Hey, are you okay? I don't want things to be weird between us. I hope you know I still care about you." Each one got the same reply from me. Polite, brief, non-committal. "Thanks, I'm fine. I appreciate that." Noted. She escalated. A long message on a Thursday evening. "I don't want to lose what we had. I know it's not the kind of love you wanted, but I really value our bond. You're one of the most important people in my life. Can we talk in person?" I didn't respond that night. I reread it twice, let the words sink in. What stood out to me was how the message centered her. Her needs, her comfort. Not once did it ask how I was processing or whether I wanted that bond preserved. That was the first time I felt anger, sharp and clean. I didn't meet up. I simply texted. "I don't think talking right now would help either of us. I need distance." The word distance must have rattled her, because 2 hours later she sent another wall of text, this one less polished, almost frantic. Something about how real honesty is rare, and how her friends told her she was brave for being upfront, that most people would just string you along. That part hit me in an odd way. I pictured her with her group of girlfriends, maybe over wine, workshopping the exact phrasing of her confession, rehearsing it as if it were a kind of performance art, and them applauding her afterward. "Good job. Hey, so raw. So honest." But what did honesty really mean if she'd known this for months, maybe years, and let me keep investing? Silence again. My silence became a mirror, and she clearly didn't like her reflection in it. By week 2, she called me. I let it ring. She left a voicemail, her voice carefully casual. "Hey, just wanted to hear your voice. No pressure. Call me if you feel like it." I didn't. Around that time, I started journaling. Not because I'm the Dear Diary type, but because I wanted to make sure I tracked my own state. I wrote down, day 10. Not sad. More like disappointed at my own blindness. Why did I ignore the clues? Why did I translate her half-compliments into reassurance instead of warnings? It wasn't self-pity. It was evidence gathering, but the evidence was about me. By week 3, the messages took on a different flavor. Less, "I'm brave," and more, "Are you punishing me?" She wrote, "You're shutting me out completely. That hurts. I thought we were more mature than silent treatment. You said you appreciated my transparency, but now you're just acting cold. That doesn't seem fair." I stared at the word fair for a long time. What's fair about holding someone's loyalty hostage to your uncertainty? What's fair about letting a person imagine a future with you while you quietly categorize them as not it? That was when I decided silence wasn't punishment. It was recalibration. I wasn't shutting her out to make her squirm. I was shutting the door because she'd made it clear she didn't want to live in the same house with me, emotionally speaking. The human instinct is to fight for attention to prove your worth. I've done that in past relationships. But this time, I felt a strange, almost serene clarity. Her words removed me from her emotional payroll, and my resignation was already filed. By the 1-month mark, the desperation started to seep through. She showed up at my apartment once, unannounced, with some excuse about forgetting her sweater. It had been there for weeks. She hadn't cared before. I handed it back to her at the door, didn't invite her in. The look on her face was confusion bordering on panic, as if the script had been flipped and she didn't know her lines anymore. I realized then, the absence of my affection was louder than my affection had ever been. She had expected grief, anger, maybe bargaining. She hadn't expected vacancy. And I'll admit, Part of me took grim satisfaction in that. Not revenge, not cruelty, just the knowledge that she was finally feeling the weight of the decision she'd dressed up as honesty. Update 1. It's been about 6 weeks since that Sunday conversation. I didn't plan to update, but things have escalated in ways that surprised me, and I think writing it down keeps me grounded. After part 2, I assumed I would eventually accept the distance. I wasn't cruel. I didn't trash talk her. I just stopped playing the role she admitted she never wanted me to play. But silence, apparently, is intolerable for some people. The friend intervention. 2 weeks ago, I started getting messages from her friends. Not my friends, not mutual acquaintances, hers. One text read, "Hey, just want you to know I really did the right thing by being honest. Most people would have lied. Don't punish her for being brave." Another one, from someone I barely knew except for 3 brunches. "She's heartbroken too, you know. You're acting like a stone wall. That's not fair after everything you had together." It was clear the group chat had decided on a narrative. A equals the brave truth teller, me equals the cold punisher. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I started documenting. Screenshots, timestamps, everything. Not because I thought I'd need to use it, but because I've learned in life and in work that when people start creating stories about you, you need receipts. The transparency spin. Last Friday, I posted something on Instagram. A vague, pastel background quote card. "Real love is honesty, even if it hurts." Broken Heart Sparkles hashtag growth hashtag truth. I wouldn't have even seen it. I don't follow her anymore. But a coworker who follows both of us DM me like, "Is this about you?" That's when I realized she wasn't just talking to me anymore. She was talking about me. Or rather, performing honesty to an audience. In her world, she had confessed bravely. And now I was the one sulking, punishing, stonewalling. The narrative was neat and flattering for her. Meanwhile, the reality was messy. She withheld clarity for 2 years, dropped it like a purity badge, then expected me to keep orbiting around her as the loyal ex-partner friend confidant hybrid. The apartment visit. The most jarring moment came last weekend. I was watching a late movie, lights off, when someone buzzed my apartment. It was after 11 p.m. I didn't answer at first, but then came the knock. Firm, insistent. Through the peephole. Hey. She looked, not drunk, but drained. I opened the door just enough to stand in the frame. She started with, "I just wanted to see you. I hate how cold this feels. Can't we at least talk like friends?" Her tone had flipped completely. Gone was the confident, honesty is brave persona. What I saw was someone suddenly terrified of being erased. I stayed calm. I told her, "You made your feelings clear. I'm respecting that by stepping out of the role you don't want me in. That means I can't be the person you come to for comfort anymore." Her eyes welled up. She whispered, "So you're really just done?" And I said, simply, "Yes." It was the quietest door I've ever closed in my life. The rational prep. That night, after she left, I set up 2 things. Documented the visit. I typed a note in my phone with the date and time, just in case. Checked my building's camera system. Our lobby has a motion-triggered feed. I requested the clip from management showing her buzzing my apartment at 11:12 p.m. Not because I plan to use it, but because, again, receipts matter. I don't think she's dangerous, but desperation can make people rewrite history. I want to make sure I'm not the villain in a story I didn't volunteer for. My inner state. Here's the part one didn't expect. I don't feel triumphant. Not even vindicated. Mostly, I feel tired. Heavy, like I'm walking underwater. People think the hardest part of betrayal is the moment itself. The confession, the lie uncovered. But for me, it's this long aftershock where you realize the other person is already rebranding your pain into their redemption arc. Her friends cheer her raw honesty. Social media claps for her vulnerability. Meanwhile, my silence, my rational boundary, is painted as cruelty. And yet, the silence stands. Because the alternative is to let myself be drafted into her narrative again, where my role is the safe guy who stays, no matter what. That's not my role anymore. Final update. It's been just over 3 months since the initial confession. If you followed this far, here's where things landed, and why I'll never look at honesty the same way again. The escalation. About 2 weeks after my last post, I got a call from a mutual acquaintance, someone who's friends with A, but neutral enough to keep me in the loop. She warned me, "Just so you know, A's been telling people you're ghosting her and being emotionally cruel." She's painting it like you punished her for being upfront. Hearing it out loud hit harder than I expected. Not because I was surprised. The breadcrumbs were already there with the Instagram post and her friends' messages, but because it proved my instincts right. The narrative was shifting, and I was the designated villain. That night, I pulled out the folder I'd been quietly building. Screenshots of texts, dates, the voicemail she left, even the building's camera clip of her late-night visit. All neatly labeled. It sounds paranoid, but in my field of work, engineering, lots of project documentation, I know paper trails matter. It wasn't about suing her or anything dramatic like that. It was about defending my reality in case it got twisted. The reputation games. A week later, I attended a birthday gathering for a mutual friend. I debated skipping it, but decided I wouldn't let her dictate my social calendar. She was there, and sure enough, the air was thick with half glances and whispers. At one point, I overheard one of her closer friends saying to someone else, "He just shut down on her. Totally ghosted. Who does that after 2 years?" It stung, not because I cared what strangers thought, but because it revealed the deeper cruelty. It had set herself up as the brave truth teller and me as the heartless punisher. The facts didn't matter, only the story that sounded good at brunch tables. I didn't confront anyone. I just stayed polite, talked to people I trusted, left early. Later that night, two of my own close friends texted me. "Dude, we know what's up. Don't let their noise get in your head." That helped. A lot. The breaking point. The real turning point came in the form of a message, not from A, but from one of her friends. A long paragraph accusing me of weaponizing silence, emotionally abandoning A, and proving why women are afraid to be honest. That's when I drew a hard line. I replied once, clearly. I won't engage in group narratives. A told me her feelings, I respected them, and I stepped away. That's the entire story. Any further attempts to frame me otherwise will be documented. Please do not contact me again. And then I blocked. It felt less like slamming a door and more like locking the final latch. The legal angle, briefly. Some people asked in DMs if I considered legal action. I'll be honest. I thought about consulting a lawyer when the reputational stuff started to spread. Defamation is a high bar, and nothing she said publicly named me directly. It was all vague subtweets and quotes. But I did talk to a legal contact at work, off the record. His advice was simple. Keep all documentation. Don't engage publicly. If it escalates into career interference, emails to my employer, for example, then consider a formal cease and desist. So I stayed silent, but meticulously prepared. That paradox, calm outside, files inside, became my survival strategy. The emotional aftermath. Here's the part that's hardest to put into words. I'm not angry anymore. Not really. I'm altered. When someone you care about tells you my feelings are real, just not the love kind, it feels surgical, like they've carved you out of the category of intimacy while asking you to keep playing the role anyway. And when their friends applaud it as bravery, you realize the betrayal isn't just personal, it's communal. I've thought a lot about that phrase, not the love kind. It's almost poetic in its cruelty. Because what is love if not the decision to stay, to invest, to be present? And I did all that. She accepted it, benefited from it, built her comfort around it. Then she reframed it as a misclassification. The aftermath hasn't been heartbreak in the classic sense. It's been disillusionment, a shift in how I see people. I no longer take honesty at face value. I ask myself, is this honesty for my sake or for theirs? Where I am now, practically, I'm running more. 5 miles most mornings instead of 2. It clears my head. I've reconnected with old friends outside of our shared social circle. Dinners, board game nights, conversations that don't orbit around her. I've started therapy. My therapist calls what I'm feeling boundary grief, the pain of enforcing a limit you know is right, but still mourning what it cost. As for dating, not yet. I'm not against it, but right now I need to trust myself again before I can trust anyone else. The reflection. Here's what I've learned. Silence is not cruelty. Sometimes silence is the most honest response because it refuses to co-sign a false narrative. Documentation is peace of mind. Even if you never use it, knowing you have the receipts lets you stand firm when whispers spread. Honesty isn't inherently noble. It matters when you choose it, why you choose it, and whether it comes with accountability. A confessed at the point where it cost her the least and rewarded her the most. Applause from friends, sympathy from her circle. That's not courage. That's strategy. Final words. I don't hate her. I don't think she's a monster. I think she's human, self-protective, self-justifying, maybe even self-deceiving. But humans can do damage even without malice. My life now is quieter, more solitary, but also more mine. I've stopped waiting for her messages, stopped checking if her friends are subtweeting me. The silence that once felt heavy now feels like open air. So if there's a moral, it's this. Closure isn't something someone gives you with a brave speech. Closure is the long, slow work of refusing to be cast in a role you never auditioned for. And that work is ongoing.